Stop. Before you even think about clicking away, look around you. The walls of your home, the car in your driveway, and the digital balance in your bank account are all part of a world that is scheduled to expire by 2026. If you are hearing my voice, you have been granted a very narrow window of time to realize that the life you've built is standing on a fault line. I am not here to tell you a story. I am here to read you your financial death warrant. Most people believe that a war between the United States and Iran is something that happens in a desert thousands of miles away. They are wrong. The modern battlefield isn't a trench. It's your 401,000. It's your equity. It's your ability to buy food for your family. By the time this audio ends, you will either be terrified enough to take action, or you will be among the millions who will wake up in 2026 to find their life savings have been deleted by a systemic liquidity trap. Listen closely to the silence. That is the sound of the American dream, suffocating under $34 trillion of debt. We are currently witnessing the largest asset bubble in the history of mankind. Whether it is the S&P 500, the tech giants of the NASDAQ, or the real estate market in your own neighborhood, everything has been inflated by cheap credit and artificial liquidity. But 2026 is the year the music stops. When the first spark of conflict hits the Middle East, the global supply chain will snap like a dry twig. The Strait of Hormuz will be blocked, and 20% of the world's oil will vanish from the market overnight. For you, this means the era of the strongest dollar is over. You will watch your purchasing power evaporate in real time as inflation shifts from a nuisance to a predator. Think about your bank. You believe that the numbers you see on your screen represent actual wealth. They don't. In a state of national emergency, the banking system operates under bail-in protocols. This means your deposits are legally considered unsecured, debt that the bank can use to save itself. When the market collapses, when the war in Iran triggers a massive cyber infiltration of our financial grid, the government will invoke emergency powers to freeze all digital transactions. You will go to your local ATM and it will be dark. You will try to log into your brokerage account to sell your crashing stocks, and you will be met with a system under maintenance message. This is not a glitch. It is a calculated move to trap retail liquidity while the institutional whales exit the market through dark pools. They are leaving you behind to hold the bag of a dying currency. The fear you feel right now is the only rational response to the data. While the mainstream media keeps you distracted with political theater, the smart money is already fleeing. There is a silent capital flight happening right now into hard commodities and non-correlated assets. The petrodollar, the very foundation of American global hegemony, is being dismantled by the BRICS nations. As the US military overextends itself in a multi-front conflict with Iran and its proxies, the rest of the world will stop buying our debt. This will cause a tidal wave of devalued dollars to come rushing back to American shores, creating a hyperinflationary spiral that will make the 1970s look like a golden age. Your mutual funds, which are heavily weighted in tech and consumer discretionary sectors, will lose 60 to 80% of their real value in a matter of weeks. You are being lied to about the safety of your portfolio. Diversification is a myth when the entire system is built on a single point of failure. The US dollar. If the dollar fails, your diversification fails. In 2026, the cost of living will become a mathematical impossibility for the average American family. Credit card interest rates will skyrocket as the Federal Reserve desperately tries to save the currency by destroying the consumer. Your variable rate debts will become unpayable. Your mortgage will feel like a noose. This is the ultimate wealth transfer. The elite are not afraid of a war with Iran. They are counting on it. They need a crisis of this magnitude to reset the system, to wipe out the middle-class debt, and to usher in a new era of total financial surveillance through central bank digital currencies. This is the infiltration no one talks about. It is the infiltration of our economic sovereignty. Every dollar the government prints to fund a war is a tax on your future. You are paying for the missiles with your retirement. You are paying for the drones with your children's inheritance. And yet, you sit there hoping that the market will bounce back. It won't. Not this time. The structural integrity of the global financial order has been compromised. We are looking at a systemic reset where the losers are those who trusted the institutions. And the winners are those who understood the value of liquidity and hard assets before the freeze began. If you are still listening, it means you still have a chance. But that chance is fading with every tick of the clock. In the coming months, you will see the signs. You will see the volatility in the bond market. You will see the sudden spikes in gold and silver. You will see the banks quietly changing their terms of service to limit your withdrawals. Do not ignore these warnings. The war with Iran is merely the catalyst for a financial execution that has been decades in the making. Your survival in 2026 depends entirely on your ability to disconnect from the traditional banking grid before the gates are locked. The question isn't whether the crash is coming. The question is, where will you be when the lights go out? Will you be standing among the ruins of the middle class? Or will you be among the few who saw the invisible war coming and moved their wealth into the shadows? Stay tuned for part 2, where I will expose the energy crisis and the total death of the global supply chain. This is your final wake-up call. The dollar is dying. The system is rigged. And the war has already begun. If you thought the banking freeze was the end of the story, you are dangerously mistaken. The freeze is just the perimeter fence. The real slaughter happens inside. We are moving into the heart of 2026, and the conflict with Iran has just triggered what economists call a supply chain contagion. You've heard the term inflation, but you haven't experienced scarcity. Scarcity is what happens when the digital dollar in your pocket remains, but the physical goods on the shelves vanish. As the Strait of Hormuz closes, the global energy jugular is severed. We are entering a commodity supercycle where the price of survival is indexed to oil, and the United States is no longer the one holding the pen. Listen to the rhythm of the global economy. It is slowing down. Ships are idling in the middle of the ocean because the maritime insurance rates have skyrocketed beyond the value of the cargo they carry. This is the silent gridlock for you, the American consumer. This means the just-in-time delivery system that brings iPhones to your door and fresh produce to your grocery store is dead. In 2026, a simple repair part for your car or a semiconductor for your laptop will become a black market luxury. Your standard of living is being downgraded in real time, and no amount of stimulus checks or government intervention can print a barrel of oil or a ton of wheat. The energy infiltration is the most successful weapon ever used against the West by forcing the U.S. into a prolonged kinetic conflict. In the Middle East, our adversaries have ensured that our strategic petroleum reserve is drained to critical levels. When the reserve hits zero, the national security of the United States becomes a theoretical concept. You will see gas lines that stretch for miles, not because of a lack of resources, but because the logistics infrastructure has collapsed under the weight of wartime rationing. Your commuter lifestyle is over. The suburban dream is becoming a suburban trap as the cost of moving from point A to point B exceeds the daily wage of the average worker. Let's talk about your portfolio exposure. Most retail investors are heavily concentrated in tech and growth stocks. These companies rely on global stability and cheap energy to maintain their profit margins. In 2026, those margins will turn into net losses as energy costs rise. Operational expenses explode. The earnings per share for the biggest names on the NASDAQ will crater, leading to a margin call of biblical proportions. If you are not hedged with hard commodities, energy sovereignty plays, or short positions against the broader market, you are essentially a passenger on a sinking ship. The wealth transfer is moving away from digital promises and back toward physical reality. Gold, silver, copper, and oil, these are the only currencies the world will recognize when the geopolitical smoke clears. You must realize that the infiltration has already reached your local supermarket. Food inflation is not just about rising prices. It's about product availability. When the cost of fertilizer, which is derived from natural gas, triples, the global food supply shrinks. We are looking at a 2026 where food insecurity hits the American heartland. The agricultural sector will be nationalized under emergency defense acts, and your purchasing power will be dictated by electronic benefit transfers rather than your actual savings. They want you hungry, they want you cold, and they want you desperate, because a desperate population is easier to transition into a controlled digital economy. The global supply chain was the crown jewel of globalization, but it was built on the assumption of permanent peace. That piece is gone. The infiltration of our manufacturing base by foreign dependencies has left us vulnerable. In 2026, when the trade embargoes begin, you will realize that we can no longer build what we need to defend ourselves. This industrial paralysis will lead to a stock market meltdown in the manufacturing and defense sectors. Even the companies that build the missiles will run out of the rare earth elements needed to guide them. This is the irony of empire collapsing from the inside because it forgot how to be self-sufficient. Do you still think your mutual funds are safe? Do you still think the Federal Reserve has your back? They are managing a controlled demolition. They are prioritizing the survival of the state over the survival of the citizen. Every policy decision made in 2026 will be designed to protect the banking, elite, and the military-industrial complex, while the middle class is offered as a sacrifice to the gods of debt. The de-dollarization of the energy market is the final nail in the coffin. When the world no longer needs greenbacks to buy black gold, the usury-based economy of the United States will implode. This is part 2 of your awakening. The energy crisis is not a temporary spike. It is a permanent shift in the global power structure. The infiltration is complete. The supply chain is broken, and your wealth is being harvested to fuel a war that was designed to bankrupt you. In the next part, we will descend into the banking, freeze the day the screens go black, and the digital currency trap is finally sprung. If you haven't moved your assets into self-custody by then, you will be nothing more than a statistic. In the Great Reset, the clock is ticking. The world is getting darker. Are you still waiting for a miracle, or are you ready to survive? Welcome to the silence of the vault. It is 2026, and the banking freeze has officially begun. If you are hearing this, the doors to your local branch are likely locked, and the online banking portal is displaying a critical system error. They will tell you it was a state-sponsored cyber attack from Iran or a temporary infrastructure glitch. But the truth is far more sinister. This is systemic solvency failure. The banks didn't just run out of cash. They ran out of trust in a fractional reserve system. Your deposits only exist as long as everyone agrees not to ask for them at the same time. But when the war escalated, the agreement was broken. The bank run of 2026 wasn't a physical line at the door, it was a digital stampede that crashed the servers in minutes. Listen to the heartbeat of a dying financial system. The Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, DIC, is designed to handle the failure of a few small banks, not the simultaneous collapse of the global interbank market. When the counterparty risk between major U.S. financial institutions hit the red zone, the Federal Reserve stepped in with emergency liquidity facilities. But this time, the bailout isn't for you. It's for the prime dealers and the mega banks. You are being hit with capital controls. You are being told that for national security reasons, you can only withdraw $500 a week. Your purchasing power is being held hostage, while the value of that $500 is eaten alive by wartime inflation. This is the great transition. The infiltration of your privacy is almost complete. The banking freeze is the Trojan horse for the central bank digital currency CBD. They will offer you a rescue package, a digital wallet directly linked to the Federal Reserve. They will tell you it is the only way to receive your emergency benefits or your tax refunds. But there is a catch. This digital dollar is programmable. It has an expiration date. It has spending restrictions. It is total financial surveillance disguised as convenience. If you don't spend it on approved goods within 30 days, it vanishes. If your social credit score drops because of your political views or your energy consumption, your wallet is deactivated. This is the end of financial liberty in America. Think about your retirement accounts, your IRAs, and 401ks. In 2026, the government will nationalize these private savings under the Patriot Financial Act. They will tell you that for the safety of the nation, your private stocks must be exchanged for government war bonds. They are taking your growth assets and giving you fixed income debt from a bankrupt empire. This is the wealth confiscation no one saw coming because everyone was too busy watching the geopolitical drama on their screens. Your wealth is being diverted to fund a conflict that has no exit strategy, leaving you with nothing but government IOS. that will never be paid back in real value. The infiltration has reached the very concept of ownership. In the CBD era, you don't own your money. You license it from the state. The private banking sector, as we know it, is being phased out to make way for a monolithic credit system. If you haven't moved a portion of your wealth into self-custody, assets like physical gold or decentralized networks before the freeze, you are now a serf in a digital feudalism. The institutional whales have already moved their liquidity into hard assets and offshore sovereignties. They are safe behind legal firewalls, while you are trapped inside the digital panopticon. Do you feel the financial dread? You should. The banking freeze of 2026 is the filter that separates the informed from the ignorant. If you are still waiting for a market recovery, you are waiting for a ghost. The old world of free markets and capitalism has been replaced by command and control economics. Every transaction you make is now a permission-based event. This is the price of war. This is the price of debt. The infiltration of our monetary sovereignty is the final stage of the American collapse. This is part 3. The banking doors are closed and the digital trap is set. You are no longer a citizen. You are a data point in a centralized ledger. In the next part, we will analyze the real estate and mutual fund meltdown, how the housing market will be harvested by corporate landlords, and why your diversified portfolio is a single point of failure. The reset is here. The freeze is permanent. Are you ready to live in a world where your survival is a subscription service? The time to exit the system was yesterday. Today, you are just trying to survive the system. Look at your home. For generations, the American middle class believed that 4 walls and a roof were the ultimate hedge against uncertainty. But in 2026, the great equity stripping has arrived. As the war with Iran sends interest rates into a vertical climb to protect the dying dollar, the housing market is no longer an asset, it is a liability. You are witnessing a real estate meltdown. That makes 2008 look like a minor correction. The mortgage-backed securities that underpin your local bank stability are toxic. The variable rate nightmare has returned. And for millions of American families, the dream of ownership is being replaced by the reality of eviction. Listen to the sound of the auction hammer. That is the sound of the institutional harvest. While you are struggling to keep up with skyrocketing property taxes and utility bills, private equity giants and sovereign wealth funds are sitting on trillions in dry powder. They are waiting for the systemic collapse to hit the bottom so they can buy up entire zip codes for pennies on the dollar. This is the corporate infiltration of the American neighborhood. By the time the war ends, you won't own your home. You will rent it from a global conglomerate that uses an algorithm to decide your monthly payment. This is neo-feudalism disguised as market volatility. Now, look at your mutual funds. You were told to buy and hold. You were told that time in the market beats timing the market. That was a lie designed to keep your capital trapped while the smart money exited. In 2026, the diversified portfolio is a myth. When the global supply chain breaks, every sector bleeds. Tech stocks lose their growth premiums. Consumer staples are crushed by input costs. And financials are hollowed out by loan defaults. Your 401k is not a safety net. It is a single point of failure. The mutual fund managers are bound by fiduciary rules that prevent them from moving into cash or gold quickly enough to save your principal. You are watching your life savings being incinerated to pay for a wartime deficit that can never be erased. The infiltration of your retirement security is complete. The Social Security Trust Fund is being repurposed to fund national defense. And the cost of living adjustments cannot keep up with the real-world inflation at the grocery store. This is the silent wealth tax. You aren't losing your money because the numbers are going down. You are losing it because the value of those numbers is being deleted. Your mutual fund may stay flat on paper, but in terms of purchasing power, you are losing 10% of your wealth every single month. This is the invisible crash. It doesn't happen with a panic on the floor. It happens with a whimper in the mailbox as your statements reveal the truth. Think about the commercial real estate sector. The office buildings in the hearts of our cities are zombie assets. As the energy crisis makes commuting impossible and cyber warfare makes centralized offices a security risk, these buildings are worth less than the debt held against them. This commercial meltdown will trigger a contagion that hits every pension fund and insurance company in the United States. Your insurance premiums will skyrocket, and your pension, if you still have one, will be restructured to protect the institutional creditors. You are at the bottom of the capital stack, and in 2026, the bottom is a very dangerous place to be. The infiltration has reached the very land we stand on. The agriculture real estate is being consolidated by global elite who understand that in a post-dollar world, food is the only true currency. While you are worried about your stock portfolio, they are securing arable land and water rights. They are preparing for a resource-based economy while you are still playing a paper-based game. The stock market is a distraction. The mutual fund is a trap. The housing market is the harvest. This is part 4. The equity in your life is being stripped away to fuel the war machine. You are being transitioned from an owner to a user, from a citizen with assets to a subject with subscriptions. In the final part of this series, we will provide the survival guide. We will talk about the wealth transfer opportunities that only exist in the darkest hours. We will discuss non-paper assets and the underground economy that will emerge from the ruins of the 2026 reset. The system has failed you. Now, you must decide if you will fail yourself. The final warning is coming. Is fracturing into regional blocks. If you are positioned in domestic, manufacturing, and resource extraction within the United States, you are betting on the survival of the core. The infiltration of foreign dependencies is being purged, and those who own the means of production on American soil will be the new industrial barons of the post-war reconstruction. Think about capital preservation through alternative jurisdictions. If the US dollar is the epicenter of the collapse, you must have global diversification that actually means something. This isn't about international stocks. It's about physical presence and legal firewalls in neutral territories. The infiltration of our tax codes and privacy laws means that your domestic assets are easily seized. You must learn the art of the exit, whether it is private vaulting in Singapore or Switzerland, or decentralized finance, protocols that operate outside of SWIFT control. Your financial sovereignty depends on your geographic independence. The one are already gone. They have dual citizenships and global portfolios. You must start thinking like a sovereign individual, not a captive consumer. This is the infiltration of knowledge. The most important asset you have in 2026 is information. The media will keep the masses in a state of constant panic to make them easier to govern. But you must look at the spread and the basis. Look at the yield curve and the commodity futures. These are the true signals in a world of wartime noise. When you see the Federal Reserve begin the digital reset, you will know it is the final signal to move entirely into hard wealth. The banking freeze is a filter. It removes the weak hands from the market and consolidates real power into the hands of the prepared. As we conclude this series, realize that the invisible war has already been won by those who saw it coming. The conflict with Iran is the curtain that hides the machinery of the Great Reset. You have the manual, you have the warning. The dollar is a ghost, the banking system is a cage, and the stock market is a casino where the house has already left with the jackpot. Your survival depends on your willingness to break the narrative and protect your principle. This was part 5. The wealth transfer has begun. The infiltration is total. But for the informed, this is not the end. It is the great opening. Take your liquidity out of the grid. Move your wealth into the real world. And most importantly, stay silent in 2026. Privacy is the ultimate status symbol. The reset is here. The war is now. The future belongs to those who do not fear the collapse, but control it. This is Mia signing off from the old world. I'll see you on the other side.